Sports build champions and leaders, but every champion has moments of struggle, pressure, anxiety, burnout, and those moments deserve real support. PAX Health is proud to sponsor the New Jersey Lacrosse Podcast because they believe mental health care should be available when you need it, as you need it. Therapy and psychiatric services for kids, teens, communities, and families. Telehealth and in-person appointments are available within 48 hours. PAX Health, people helping people. Visit pax.health. That's PAX.health. Lacrosse families, meet Orgo, the calendar app that actually thinks like a sports parent. Orgo syncs with team apps you already use and enriches schedules with real-world logistics. Every event shows travel times, early arrival buffers, carpool assignments, conflict alerts, and time-specific weather so you know what gear to pack. Get your athletes on it too. Orgo teaches time literacy, an executive skill for life. One subscription, whole family. Code LAX25 is 25% off. Just $44 locks in sanity for the whole year. Visit www.orgohq.com. That's www.orgohq.com. JAG Physical Therapy, providing rehabilitative recovery from sports and soft tissue injuries to knee, foot, ankle, hip, shoulder, elbow, and back injuries. Schedule your appointment with JAG Physical Therapy today and meet their experienced team of physical therapists, occupational therapists, athletic trainers, and exercise physiologists invested in your full recovery. Get back the life you love at JAG Physical Therapy, the most awarded physical therapy provider in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, just visit jagpt.com. That's JAGPT.com. This is the New Jersey Lacrosse Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Glock.
I'm Bill Farr.
I'm Anthony Terranova.
And this here is Gil Swenson. Welcome to the New Jersey Lacrosse Podcast. Welcome. I really think that every time I watch our New Jersey Lacrosse Podcast intro and my decision to just put Gil as some weird still picture is just one of the best decisions we could have made. Welcome everybody to week number 10. Gil, you're back with us. It's good to have you. How are you?
I'm good, man. Listening to the intro, I still haven't gotten you one of the most important promos. So I'm going to let Bill Tharp take it away for a second and plug the Garden State Cup.
Oh yeah, Garden State Cup. This is being sprung on me. So this is
totally sprung on him, totally unplanned.
Garden State Cup is it's honestly one of my my favorite events. It's it's something that been lucky to kind of been on the ground floor with Gil to help bring back in the past few years. Gotten to coach against Nova in the championship game one year. Been lucky enough to hoist the trophy one year. But it's an incredible event, and it's a great opportunity for the four different regions, the North, the East, the South, and the Central, to come together and compete together. Last year in the championship game, got to it was a really special event. Got to coach. Gil obviously was running the event. The game was reffed by Mr. Glock and Mr. Terranova. It was an overtime thriller. The South got the upper hand on us last year, so it's one of my favorite events. I've been doing club lacrosse for way too many years now, and it's honestly I look forward to this event more than anything in the world. I love getting to interact with kids you coach against in the spring. It helps build relationships. It helps mend some relationships you may run into trouble with in the spring with your arch rivals. So it's really cool. When I was coaching at Pingree, getting to coach the Ridge kids, that was a really special moment. And now some of those kids I've gotten really close with, and I love the event. I can't speak highly enough of it. I encourage everyone to come out and play. It's something that was one of the biggest events in New Jersey lacrosse back in the day, and it went away. And Gil and Coach Curcio and those guys bought it back, and it's got a really, in the short amount of time it's been back, it's got a really robust tradition. Guys who are playing Division I lacrosse right now have competed in the event. Guys who are committed to high level schools playing the event, and it's not just a recruiting event. It's a tournament for pride. Nova's gotten to hoist the trophy. It's a special thing. Getting to hold that trophy and celebrate with with those kids. So
Some would
again,
say
I
you had to
can't
compete
recommend
against
it enough.
Nova multiple years now on the field and in the stripes.
Yeah, I did get to do it multiple years. I did it 1 year as a coach, and nothing was better than being able to exact revenge in championship game against Tharp after he got the better of me in the day before, and then even better to be able to ref it with Tharp on the sideline and Glock in his beautiful attire for the championship game. And it was
I heard it
again
was
it was
one
an
of
amazing
the
game,
best.
amazing battle. I mean, just the level of play at the Garden State Cup just continues to rise every single year.
One of the best officiated games I've ever seen is one of the things I've heard.
Here, I thought you said, Terra Nova, it was great for you to be able to take out your revenge on Tharp while you were officiating the Garden
No.
State
That's what I
Cup.
thought,
That's where
too.
I thought you were going.
No.
No, I didn't get boned by him. I got boned by another guy, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
That's totally what happened. I definitely did that. I know. All right, so,
I'm still shocked I
Gil,
made it out to lunch after with you guys.
why would you do this, Gil? You put him in a place that I don't know we could bring him back from. All right.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay.
All right. You sure? You okay? All right, good.
I'm good. No, I'm good.
All right, let's talk non-public seat. Go. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Oh God, please. All right. Before Bill Tharp takes us to a place we just certainly can't come back from, welcome everybody to episode 10 of the 2026 New Jersey Lacrosse Podcast. And this is a special episode because we're going to bring to you our midseason players of the year, in addition to all the things that you normally get from us in terms of our look back, our games to watch, the pick'ems, and a stall warning question, which I still haven't thought of yet. So I'm gonna think of it while you guys are talking, and I'm gonna put it in our rundown sheet. So you guys need to be on the lookout for that. But our opening face-off today is going to be a pinch and pop, and I'm going to control it, and I'm going to win it forward and keep it in my own stick here. And I'm going to tell you that this past weekend was a really special one for me, and it was a what has become an annual reminder about why I think we all love this game so much, and why we all spend as much time doing dumb podcasts, and people spend their time listening to our idiot selves and reffing it and coaching it, and we played it, and we did all these things that grabbed our attention that we were never able to let go of it. Friday night I reffed a game, a rivalry game with two of my best friends, and a game that was an incredibly intense rivalry game on a collegiate level. And it was the first time this season where I got to say, as the fourth quarter was coming to a close, 5 minutes to go, first time of hopefully a bunch this season where we looked at each other in the eyes and said, hey, this might be the last 5 minutes that somebody plays lacrosse for the rest of their lives. Right? Be in tune to that. Be in tune to what might happen in the negative, and be in tune to their emotion in either direction. And that certainly played itself out in the last 5 minutes. And then I got to continue my incredible lacrosse weekend yesterday, fortunate, officiated with Mr. Terra Nova. 2 games yesterday. Both of them went to overtime. Incredible lacrosse in the state of New Jersey. Ridgewood, Westfield, Lawrenceville, St. Anthony's. And it happened, and this is what made me think that this is where I wanted to go with the opening face-off, and it's just essentially a commentary on the love and passion of this game, is that it was, if anybody knows how much I hate the cold almost as much as anybody hates anything, okay? And it was miserable yesterday. Freezing and raining, and the worst thing you could possibly imagine for me and my frozen dead hands. And yet, I don't know that I could have had more fun and could be more grateful to have been a part of officiating those games and watching the kids play with every ounce of effort that they had, alongside somebody that I've grown to have an immense amount of respect for in Anthony Terra Nova as an official. I got to be a part of a Westfield proclamation day by the mayor of Westfield, who called it Mike Downer Day in Westfield. yesterday in honor of Mike Downer, who's an official who was diagnosed about a year ago with ALS. And another insight for anybody that doesn't know, my dad passed away from ALS 10 years ago. And Mike is a great friend of mine. So for Mike to be able to be there and be honored, and you throw that in with all the other emotion of this weekend, like, what a time to be alive. Enjoy and my message is enjoy the hell out of this, guys, because it doesn't get any better than like April 25th on this. And I say that, and I'm probably going to say this again in 2 weeks when we get to the county tournament finals. Like, I love lacrosse, guys. I love it. Can't get enough.
Very well said. Very well said.
And with that, dynamite dropping, everybody. Good job. I was hoping everybody was going to piggyback on that with their love for lacrosse, but okay, maybe everybody doesn't
Listen,
share
you just popped it to yourself and went down and shot. It's kind of selfish. We're standing around in our fast break, just waiting for you to pass, and you just decided to dunk it. So it's okay.
No, whoa. All I said was
I was the best play.
I was carrying the ball down the field, right? Maybe I just made a great pass over there to you.
I'm just standing at the point with my hands up, just saying.
He totally looked up Tharp off in the little corner, wide open. He looked him off, shot himself.
People know not to slide to you, Keith.
To their detriment. And with that, let's go. We'll move right into our look back from last week. The week that was another fantastic week in New Jersey lacrosse. On Tuesday, Coach Tharp, Don Bosco, in 2 overtimes, defeated Chatham. What'd you see there?
Yeah, I mean, tough week for the Cougars. We had talked about coming into it, how Bosco was on, took a really, really, quite frankly, catastrophic loss to Northern Highlands. And they were down in this game 5-2, fought their way back and pulled it out in double overtime. I think, this is a game that, very similar to Ridgewood. Chatham's probably looking, watching the film back, kicking themselves in the butt a little bit. I thought they had a lot of opportunities to win the game. I think it was at the end of regulation. They ran a play. They got Nick Lagunowicz with the short stick and, unfortunately turned it over. In overtime, had some really great looks. I thought they had a really great chance to win it, and they ended up passing up, trying to get something on the crease, and the pass was missed. So I thought they had a lot of opportunities, and then Brady Kushner ended up scoring in double OT for Bosco in a game that they really, really needed to have. I know we haven't talked about it a ton this year because it's still kind of crystallizing, but in terms of PowerPoints, that was a game that Bosco really, really needed to win, and they got the job done. But again, I think Chatham will be kicking themselves in the butt for dropping that one.
Tharpy, keep us rolling in some Tuesday actions. The Moose Machine at Scotch Plains just keeps rolling as Scotch Plains Fanwood took down West Morris 14-11.
Yeah, this was an amazing game, absolutely amazing game. I think the final score actually is a little misleading. Also, this was a 1-goal game basically throughout the entire game. At the end of the game, West Morris took a pretty big penalty. I think it was like a 3-minute non-releasable, but it was incredible back and forth. Goalie play definitely left something to be desired, but you definitely saw why Luke Gauss is one of the premier faceoff guys in the entire country. But at the same time, Nate Filler did an awesome job against him. I think held him to something like 57-58%, which was by far his lowest of the season. But Scotch Plains kept finding a way to make plays. Then they scored some big time goals. Ryan Scarpa down at attack for them had a big game. Kachanowicz in the midfield, Homer at attack. Just they have playmakers all over the field, and when Filler is able to get them the ball, they're special. But man, West Morris is they're a really, really talented team, and they were right there with Scotch Plains. And I think you ref them this week, right, Glock? You got to see them again in person. They escaped with one there, but it was a tremendous game that, like I said, I think the scoreline was a little misleading, but one of the best lacrosse games I've seen this year, honestly.
As we progress through the week, CBA with a big offensive output, beating Southern 17-4. Also on Wednesday, Summit defeated Westfield 9-6. And then as we progressed into the weekend, St. Augustine 11 and CBA 5. Summit knocked off Rumson 9-6. And Gill in a very anticipated matchup again from North Jersey. Seton Hall Prep continued down its continued maybe up its positive trend, working its way back from a 1-4 or 1-5 start as they defeated Chatham 10-6.
Yeah, Seton Hall needed this one bad, and they got it done. They looked really good. They were in control most of this game. I was kind of in and out watching the stream, and every time I looked, they were just poised and control on offense. Stout on defense, and this was just kind of another tough loss for Chatham. I think coming into it, honestly, I think we knocked Seton Hall. I think maybe myself included. I think a little too hard early on for those losses. When you look at it now, it's a 1-goal loss to our now number 1 team. And then losing to Westfield. That was their other one back then too. So we kind of hit them hard for what really are some decent losses. And now they're starting to show their strength coming back up the chain a little bit here. And that was a big one. It wasn't a 1-goal game by any means. They kind of handled Chatham. We've talked about Chatham's offense as being one of the best in the state, and holding them to 6, I think, was just a testament to their team defense there.
Also on Saturday, Northern Highlands, a low-scoring affair. This would give Gill chills of joy. Northern Highlands 5, Madison 3, because we know Gill loves defense. And a game that Mr. Terranova and I officiated. We alluded to it. Ridgewood 6, Westfield 5 in overtime. Terranova, give us your initial impressions.
It was a great game, back and forth, very physical. What they were trying to do and accomplish, but just two great teams, just absolutely battling it. Westfield had a lead early on, got a little bit of a penalty trouble, and Ridgewood kind of called back. Then I think it was pretty much a 1-goal game, one way or the other. The rest of the game through ended up, both teams getting opportunities to really kind of capitalize at the end of the game. In regulation, they couldn't really do it, so it went to overtime, and Westfield got their first crack at it, called a timeout right away. In overtime, then they couldn't clear the ball, went off sides. Then Summit got it, was poised, controlled, see they didn't have everything after like a minute, call a timeout, regroup, then they ended up scoring, where Westfield was pretty much in a zone the entire game. Ridgewood went up kind of man-to-man. So for me, the biggest thing was I think Westfield is still incredibly talented. They didn't have Ben Seward playing, which is a massive hit for them, and I think it showed in the clear game. I think Westfield failed a ton of clears. And I think if they even cleaned up a little bit of it, like I'm saying, like they failed a lot of clears. Granted, it was raining, it was not great weather out, but you can't have that excuse when you're playing that type of game and environment. But not having him there, and he's scoring a goal in pretty much every game as well, was certainly noticeable. But if they clean that up, I think they get a lot more possessions and they put a few more points on the board. But when those guys likely rematch in the future here in Group 4 North, that is going to be another electric game. But at the same time, what I've noticed is Westfield plays physical. That's who they want to be. They want to be scrappy. They want to get after it. There's gonna be penalties that come with that, and you got to live with that if that's who your identity wants is going to be. And I think it's going really well for them. And then Ridgewood is just a team where I'm like, moments I'm like, I don't see it. And then there's moments I'm like, oh my good, this team is so good, but they're so good at making you pay for your mistakes. They're so good at being poised and in control of the game. That obviously starts from the head coach all the way down, but they're going to be able to compete with anybody in the state. They're just so poised. They're so controlled in what they're trying to do. There's no, they're a one way, the entire time while they were playing, and it kind of showed throughout that course of that entire game. And again, we got to shout out the poll 33 that came up to us in overtime, and he's asking like, "Yo, can I get a shout out on the pod?" And I was like, at time that's funny, but at the same time, like that's where these guys are. He's so comfortable right now that it's not like like he's not like nervous and like, oh, it's overtime. I get like he's like poised, he's controlled, he's able to have a good time, make a joke going into overtime in a huge rivalry Group 4 game, and it kind of again that poise showcase. I think through again he's a captain as well. I think that translates all the way down to why these guys continue to find these overtime wins.
Yeah, I think I said to you guys at a timeout in the middle of the third quarter, I said, this is what big boy North Jersey lacrosse looks like, guys, in April. It was Rock'em Sock'em Robots there for a little while. I don't think that the goal difference got above 2 goals the entire game, either direction. So that's potentially an appetizer for the Group 4 North Final. And before we transition to our games to watch for this upcoming week, let's give you the main course of episode 10 of this season, and that's going to be our mid-season players of the year. So boys, what I'm going to do is, I know that you all had thrown some names around, and there was a very long discussion for each of the groups of who should be included in this potential list of the one player of the year at each position that you all are going to pick. So we want to list the names of the folks who were in the running for this. And we're going to go attack, midfield, defense, goalies, specialists, and then coaches in order to wind this thing up. So I will just read the names to you of the people who are in contention, and then we'll kick it around so that you guys can pick who each of your players of the year were. So let's start on attack. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that I've been bringing this list up. So if you're a visual learner, please feel free to go over to the Q4 Lacrosse YouTube page and pull this up so you can see it as I'm reading it to you. Thomas McEnany from Shawnee, Kobe Waldman from Westfield, Emmanuel Jastrzemski from Notre Dame, Sebastian Varallo from St. Augs, James Granger from Summit, Chase Hauser from Del Barton, Matt Lutz of Madison, AJ Lasaro from Ridgewood, Brady Kushner from Don Bosco, Nick Lagunowicz of Chatham, Lawson Fagan from Mountain Lakes, Nick Homer of Scotch Plains Fanwood, Lucas Spirnock from A.L. Johnson, Jake Garofalo from West Morris, Logan Stevens of Berners, Declan Cardilla from Bridgewater, Griffin O'Sullivan of Gill St. Bernard's, Finn Buchan from Holmdel, and Luke Lydon from Rumson Fairhaven. That's our attack list of potential midseason players of the year. Bill Tharp, let's start with you. What say you in terms of your attackman of the year at the midway point?
Yeah, I mean, what a great group. I think this is a position that by far is was the hardest list to come up with. I think for me, oh man, it's like what is your taste? Are you looking for the high point guy? Are you looking for the straw that stirs the drink for a high achieving team? I think for me, what I ultimately decide with, I'm going to go with James Granger from Summit. I think for me, he is the guy offensively for Summit. He's their go-to guy. He hasn't scored any of their overtime game winners yet, but he's their leading point guy. Pretty equal in terms of goals and assists. Just an all-around playmaker. I think he's a go-to guy for them. And the number one team in New Jersey. So my vote would be for James Granger from Summit.
Gil.
Yeah, so I'll put Tharp in terms of kind of what you're looking for. I think you could go a lot of directions with this. I'm going to go with Nick Homer from Scotch Plains. I think the impact he has on that team to put them where they are today as a top 5 team, just kind of launching them up the list against some really strong competition and, balanced statistically. 38 goals, 24 assists right now, sitting at 62 points about midway through the year. And I think it's, the points are strong, obviously, but I think just the impact he has on that team and that offense specifically, especially in these big games, it's, he's come a long way. He was an impact player as a freshman, honestly. Watching him play was it was evident as a freshman. So even a couple of years later, what he's able to do for that team, putting up big points in big games, I think he's a big reason why they are where they are today.
Nova.
I'm going with same as Tharp. James Granger with his 28 goals, 22 assists, just well-rounded, being able to lead the best team in the state right now with the most points. Kind of running that offense. So that's Tharp already talked about it, so he said it perfectly, so I can't explain much more there.
All right, Gil, you're going to get a chance to go next year as we transition over to our midfield potential mid-season players of the year, and to list off all the people in contention for the award after our internal discussion. You have Brandon Fodor from Del Barton, Ryan Wodzak from Augs, Jimmy Benson of Glen Ridge, Reed Snow from Livingston, Jack Freeman from Summit, Shep Boyd of Chatham, Scotch Plains Fanwoods Colin Kochanovich, Mark Manolis of Randolph, Grayson Santucci from Shawnee, Mac Clancy of Haddonfield, Rumson's Joseph Whitehouse, CBA's Danny Verone, Kyle Sininski from Southern Regional, and Justin Valentino from Red Bank Regional. Gil, I'll go to you first. Who is your midfield mid-season player of the year?
Yeah, along the same lines, just in terms of impact for a team, I'm going to go with Shep Boyd from Chatham. Again, balanced statistically, he's a strong goal scorer, 31 goals, 13 assists. But he's such a fascinating player to watch play, just in terms of what he's able to create against some really top teams. And these teams game plan for a kid like him, and he's still able to put up 4-1 against Bosco, 5-1 against Mountain Lakes, 4-2 against Ramapo, 4-3 against Rumson. 5 points against Westfield, and these teams are all planning for him, so the fact that he's able to create that from the midfield position, no less, is just a testament to who he is as a player.
Nova.
I'm going with Ryan Widzak from St. Augustine with his 27 goals and 6 assists. Just playing at an immensely high level, both hands, just an absolute beast. Would start on any team in the state and arguably be their best player from attackman all the way down. He just is, I think, encompasses what everything that St. Augustine is producing this year, how they're playing, and I think it all kind of stems from him. So not only are we getting production from their top player, I think when you also want to talk about a player and what his impact is on his teammates, I think what he's producing right now on and off the field and leadership wise is why he would have my nod so far at this point in the season.
Bill Tharp.
I'm gonna go with Brandon Fodor from Del Barton. I think Gil kind of talked about like guys you heard whispers about as freshmen, and then stepping on the field last year. No, Fodor for me is an outstanding midfielder. Has almost 50 points already as a midfielder in a Del Barton offense. That's really, really impressive. Does a lot for them, scoring, assisting. And we talked about the schedule Del Barton plays. They play, these national powers, the Culvers, the St. Anthony's, the Malverns of the world. So for him to produce at that level, and like we said, as a midfielder, just incredibly impressive. Gets the LSM every single game. So I think there's a reason he's a top 5 commit in the recruit in the 2027 class. I think he's for me definitely the midfielder of the year.
Alrighty, let's transition over to our defenders. And once again, I will read you the people who are in contention for the mid-season defender of the year before we make our selections. Mikey Braddis of Bridgewater, Gil St. Bernard's, Tyler Lombardi, Connor Albert of Pingree, John Pike from Rumson Fairhaven, Jackson Hayes of Shawnee, John Conniff of Summit, Westfield's Ben Seward, Jagger Zemexon from Seton Hall Prep, I should say, Mike Marino of Don Bosco, Lachlan Mahoney from Chatham, Caleb McDowell of Scotch Plains Fanwood, and Aiden Shaw of Montclair Kimberly. Mr. Terranova, your mid-season defender of the year is?
2 things to correct there. It's Lachlan with an O and not an A for the Chatham defender, who I'll be talking about in a second, and Aiden Shaw is Morris Knowles. But I'm going to go with the Chatham boy, RU boy. Let's go. I think just what he's producing at a high level has been fascinating to watch. A player that can push transition, score goals. I was at the Rumson game where he scored, I think, 2 goals, 1 to the outside, 1 behind the back. He was the best player on the field that day, even with guys, on this list as well. It was kind of really special to kind of watch him just kind of take over that game. It's easy to throw the Summit name out there, but I think Summit just has great guys from Jake Reinhold to John Conniff. They're just so stout. I don't think it's just one guy who's kind of like dominating that side of the ball, where I think Mahoney for Chatham, he is the guy. He's going to be on the best player. He's going to take him away, and he's going to make you pay in transition if he does take your cookies.
I'm gonna, before I kick it over to Bill Tharp for your defensive player of the year, I'm gonna apologize to Aiden Shaw because I did watch an entire game that Aiden Shaw played this week on YouTube when they played West Morris, and I watched him score a ridiculous goal from like 16 yards out with a long pole on man up. So I should have known the Morris Knowles MK reference, and that's on me. Mr. Shaw, you have my apologies. And with that, I transition to Bill Tharp. Your defensive midseason player of the year in the state of New Jersey is?
I'm hoping this buys me some favor with the burners. I'm gonna go with Ben Seward from Westfield. I think he's a guy who's a smaller level commit, going to Stevens Tech. But man, he really is the engine of that Westfield team. He really runs the midfield, has scored multiple goals, out of the 10 man, just does so many different things for them, covers, a lot of space when they're in their zone and man to man, is able to lock down the number one guy in the midfield. It was really hard not to take Jagger, especially after he did a really great job shutting down my midfielder of the year when they played Del Barton. So Jagger, you are a very close second. Not that you need any
This
acknowledgement
time will
from me,
come.
but yeah. I just think Seward, what he does, what he represents for that Westfield team, and obviously, them losing by one goal with him not playing against Ridgewood, I think shows how important he is to that team and that program. So I think Westfield's a team that entered the season with a lot to prove, and they've kind of met and exceeded those expectations, and I think Seward's been a big reason why.
Good to know that if the burners are loud enough, you'll react and just hand people midseason player of the year. Tharp, good job. Gil, you're I in jest, okay, I say that obviously. Gil, your midseason defender of the year is?
I'm gonna go. Of course, a couple of years ago or last year, maybe Tharp took a shot at the Summit defense for being a system defense and not giving the Pulls any credit. But I'm going to go with John Conniff because I watched this team play a few times now, and the impact that he has, his range and length is like second to none. I haven't seen a player have this kind of range and use it effectively like he does. And obviously in that zone, it helps. He's in great positions to make some key plays, but he's knocking down a lot of passes through X. He's crashing into the middle and he feeds inside. I mean, he's all over the field in that area there. So I think the impact he has on that defense, and it is a team-oriented defense, and it's very strong as a unit. But I think he's one that stands out game after game that I've been able to watch of theirs as a driving force of why they are that good.
So for the record, I'm the only one that took a D3 commit. Just for those of you who are screaming,
you're growing.
Wow, improvement.
Congratulations. Let's transition over to our midseason goaltender of the year. Again, I'm going to start by reading you all those who are in contention for the honor. And it's Robbie Keevitt from Summit, Brennan Lyons of Seton Hall Prep, Aiden Manning from Madison, Cooper O'Brien of Montclair, Don Bosco's Brody Corey, Southern Regional's Nick Hughes, Luke Burns from Pingree, Bridgewater's Reed Feinstein, Brandon Whiteley of Gill St. Bernard's, and Jacob Nat of Caldwell. And we'll go back to the beginning. Bill Tharp, who is your midseason goalie of the year?
All right, this one's hard. And I think that I'm gonna plant my flag somewhere, and it's I just right now I have like the devil and the angel. It's like the angel's telling me like go with your gut, and the devil's being like no, prove a point. And I think I'm gonna let the devil win this one. So I'm gonna go with Luke Burns from Pingree, and my reasoning I can actually back this up, right? So we enter this season with so much debate about Pingree. We've hashed it on here way too many times. There's a reason Pingree's 10-1, and it's because of 33 in between the pipes. We've talked about Pingree's limitations offensively. Luke Burns has just stood on his head multiple times, made many great saves. So I think for me, anytime that they're having the success they have, due in large part to their defense. And again, similar to Summit, it's a product of the zone. And, what Coach Webster's doing there, it seems that, in year, whatever it is for him, 35, 30, almost 40, he's coaching that zone defense better than he's ever had. But Luke Burns is a major, major, major reason that they are having the season they're having. So Robbie Keevitt probably should be the pick, but I'm going to go with Luke Burns just because I'm stubborn.
Gil, your goalie of the year at the midseason.
I'm gonna surprise you, Tharp. I'm gonna agree with you, buddy. Look at us get along. Yeah, I'm going Luke Burns too. I think I was in the same debate a little bit, but what he's done and the score of the games that they've had, if he doesn't have the saves that he has at the volume that he's had this year, they're not 9-1. They're sitting in these low scoring games. He's keeping them in them with a lot of saves. It's not like he's not seeing shots. He's seeing a lot of shots. They're averaging 4 goals a game right now against. His saves, I just had his saves up here. He's got something like 80 saves already this season. So 85 saves so far through the year. He's seeing shots and he's keeping them in these tight games. And that's, to me, that's what earns this award.
Nova.
Yeah, very, very convincing points for sure, gentlemen. I'll go with the angel on the shoulder, though, and I'll go with Robbie Keevitt. Best goal and the best team. There's a reason why their zone's so good. In order to have a great zone, which some coaches have not figured out, in order to have a great zone, you have to have a great goalie. And when you have a great goalie, good things tend to happen if you have a competent zone. So Summit has both of those, and that's why they're one of the best teams in the entire country, not let alone the state. And he has been great since the minute he has stepped in it. And he will be great the minute he continues off to college. He's just a special type of goaltender. Makes the saves he's supposed to make and then takes some away. So this is an easier one for me compared to the other ones. He's just playing at that type of level, and he's allowed them to be continued to stand at the top of the Mount Rushmore right now.
Move on to our specialists as, again, here's the full list of potential selections for our cast of folks. Luke Gauss of West Morris, Kane Quinault from Del Barton, Kenny Romano of Notre Dame, St. Augustine's Chris Marino, Madison's Colin Byam, William Lugo from Don Bosco, Evan Arrigo of St. Joe's Montvale, Nate Filler from Scotch Plains, Haddonfield's Nate Yee, Dante Lamb from Gill St. Bernard's, and Parker Reese of Washington Township. Gil, we're back to you to begin things here. Who is your midseason specialist of the year?
Yeah, I'm going to apologize for mispronouncing his name last week or the week before, but I'm going to go with Luke Gauss. I think what he means to the West Mars Central team as a whole is just insurmountable. I think he's sitting at 88% right now, going 96%, going 100% in some key games. It looks like he went 100% against Randolph, who's a good team, and they win by 4. I think if you're not going 100% or at that high of a clip, that's a different outcome against a good team. Same thing, Caldwell, Pope John, he's going 90% against a lot of these good teams, and you can't replicate that anywhere else on the field. His impact to that team is second to none.
Nova.
I think we're gonna have a sweep here, but I fully agree. Couldn't say anything more. Best player on their team, and compared to probably any player we've seen so far, probably the most influential in determining the outcome of wins and losses for their team.
45 points too, I should add it. Didn't want to just talk face-off numbers, but he's doing all that plus 45 points. A lot of guys with that percentage aren't putting up that many points.
Is that good? Tharp, what about you?
Yeah, nope. This is no debate. This was the easiest by far. And also shout out to Gauss. He was named to the New Balance All-American Senior Game, I think this week too. So congrats to him. We'll be seeing him on ESPN and in the summer. So this is a no-brainer, right? But these guys said everything.
Love it. Let's move on to our Coach of the Year candidates at the mid-season. I'll read them all off to you. J.C. Valori of St. Augustine, Brendan Quinn from Holmdel, Damon Legato of Haddonfield, MKA's Sabino Rodano, Jim Davidson from Summit, Mike Pounds of Ridgewood, Dave Giarusso at Verona, Scotch Plains Fenwoods, Nick Maselli, easy for me to say, Rob Goodwin of West Morris, Bill Rentlers of Randolph, and Brian Rice from Notre Dame. Mr. Terranova, we will start with you. Who's your midseason coach of the year?
Yeah, great list as always. Some great teams. It was really between Goodwin from West Morris and Maselli for me, but I'm going to go in the direction of Maselli here just because I think he's able to achieve things that have never been done there before, as well as getting those massive big time wins where, West Morris Central is certainly winning games and doing some pretty incredible things. They don't have necessarily the resume that Scotch Plains has. So I'm going to go with Maselli here and look forward to see how those guys end up in the second half of the season.
Sorry to unmute myself again there. Tharp, your midseason coach of the year?
I just want to shout out Coach Rodano and Coach Giarusso. Kind of a weird situation. That's like a win-win trade. Both those schools. Verona, I think, is 8-0 this year. MKA is something like 6-2 this year. Both those teams are having really great seasons, and we wanted to acknowledge those coaches, from non-traditional schools. But I think for me, I'm actually going to go with Mike Pounds from Ridgewood. I think for me, entering the season, I was really skeptical of Ridgewood. I thought they lost, so much, and I thought that this could be a down year for them. But after a little bit of a slow start and taking a little bit of a beating to Del Barton, they've responded, super positively. I think they've won 8 in a row now. They've beaten Chatham. They've beaten Westfield. They've shown that they are clearly here. They are going to be here all year. They got Bosco this week, and I know you guys, said Coach Pounds is kind of fun for you guys on the sidelines as refs as well. I think he's just good for the game, and he's done a really great job with those guys, and they're believing. Like you said, they believe. Excuse me, they believe in what they do. First year goalie who's playing super well. So I'm going to go with Coach Pounds.
We were talking about Coach Pounds, just to add to this. PJ Clell and I were talking about him, and after our Westfield Ridgewood game yesterday, and he said, one thing I appreciate about Coach Pounds is that I think he gets officials better, because if you can deal with the conversation that you're required to have with that coaching staff, then you're just probably going to be better off on the other side. And with that, I will go to Gil for your midseason coach of the year.
Yeah, I was leaning towards JC. I think I picked him last year at the end of the year for what he's done for St. Augustine and where he has them, even at a higher level now than last year at this point. But I'm going to go with Goodwin from West Morris Central. I think what he's done really year after year there. I know we're talking about this year, but they're just always good. They're always up there. They're always in competitive games with top teams. I feel like they never really have a down year. They were nowhere to be seen in our preseason conversation. We talked about a lot of teams for top 20. They weren't even in that receive votes category in preseason for us, for any of us. And now they're sitting there, flirting with the top 10 right now and holding on to it. I think that's the biggest thing is we've seen a lot of teams come and go over these last few weeks into the top, 20, top 15 category, and they've stayed there, and they keep moving up. They keep hovering right where they are, and I think that's just consistency in that program, and that starts at the top.
All right. So that'll do it for our mid-season players of the year. And obviously, if there's a mid-season set of players of the year, there's going to be actual end-of-season players of the year on this podcast. So make sure that you stay with us as the season goes on. And when we are done with 2026, we'll circle back to all of this and give you what we thought at the end of the season. So let's move on to our games to watch for this week. And we'll start with, there's a game on Tuesday, Gil, that I want you to talk about, and that is Westfield and Rumson Fairhaven. And it just seems like some of these teams at the top, Gil, the schedules are relentless. Like Westfield, does Westfield ever have a day where they don't play somebody that they could just be like, listen, we're going to boat race these guys?
Well, that's the thing. I think both these teams have had phenomenal schedules, and I think they both really need this win. I think Rumson, they're coming off a loss to Summit, but it was a good game for them. I think watching them play in that game, they were in control early on. They're a good team, but I think they're on the upswing. I think they started off a little rougher earlier on. I think we had higher expectations for them earlier on, and they're coming back stronger right now, I think, where they want to keep this momentum going. And then you got Westfield, who's, faltering a little bit, not bad because it's all against great teams, really. But at the end of the day, you still need to win. So they're losing to some really good teams, but I think mentally they need a win. And this is a great opportunity for them to get not just a win, but a really good win. So it's a game that I think both teams need. I think Westfield probably needs a little bit more than Rumson. But again, Rumson, had some shaky games early on that I think they really need this to be kind of a marquee win towards the middle to the back half of the season here.
Let's progress through the week as we go into Wednesday. CBA will take on Manasquan. Southern Regional will take on Holmdel. Sparta and West Morris Central will square off. And Gil, possibly the game of the day on Wednesday, with apologies to Don Bosco and Ridgewood, which, Bill Tharp, I'm going to want you to talk about in a second. But before we get to Don Bosco and Ridgewood, Gil, Summit and Del Barton square off on Wednesday in an incredibly highly anticipated match. What are we looking for there?
I'm excited for this game. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I mean, Del Barton was our unanimous number one for however many weeks. They lose to Seton Hall Prep. They bump down. Summit's been in there now, number one, for a couple weeks, and we think the world of Summit. We think the world of both teams. Summit's sitting at 1, Del Barton's sitting at 3. Spoiler alert on the top 20 again. But if you guys had to pick a winner, which we're not doing a pick 'em this week with this game, but which way would you guys go? We obviously have Summit ranked higher. Does that mean we all think Summit's going to win the game, or is this a game that Del Barton can kind of flip flop with them back to 1?
So you're putting me in a tough spot here. I still have all the faith in the world from my very first week that I still think Del Barton is a team that should win this thing by multiple goals at the very end, the whole thing, Curse Cup, everything included, based on kind of the personnel they have, the depth that they have, and everything else in between. But on the flip side, again, seeing things. But if there's one thing that Barton has struggled with over the last few years, and it has not been many things, because they are one of the best teams in the state each and every year, it has been being able to beat a zone. And Summit's zone is the best there is, and now they got playmakers that are continuing to find the ball in the back of the net offensively. I don't even think faceoffs matter, just because that defense is like so sturdy in what they were doing. They're so locked in. They got great playmakers, as we already just went. We just mentioned. So it'll be interesting if they can score enough goals. It's gonna be a low scoring game for sure, in my opinion. I'm still gonna probably give the nod to Summit, just because I do have them one. If I thought they were that much, Del Barton was that much better, I would give Del Barton the nod. But I think, again, just I need to see Del Barton beat a zone again, and a high level zone before I would say right now that Summit's not gonna be able to pull this one out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, on one hand, Del Barton's going to get a lot of cracks at the zone, right? They're going to win a lot of faceoffs. I know Coach Schoen and those guys are going to have a really good faceoff strategy, but you favor Del Barton to win 70-80% of the faceoffs. Now, that being said, they did that against Seton Hall and still lost. They gave up 9 goals to Seton Hall, and I think on paper, if you matched up the Seton Hall offense versus the Del Barton, if you matched up Seton Hall's offense versus Summit's offense, on paper, you'd probably be like, oh, the Summit offense is a little more skilled or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you'd probably pick the Summit offense. So I do think that, like the Del Barton, the goalie's playing well. They have some really solid, individual defenders, but you can't even sit here and say, like, Del Barton only gives up 4 goals a game or whatever, too. Like, they give up 9 goals to Summit. They just give up 10 goals to, granted, it's Malvern, right? But, Malvern's a different beast. But, so I think Del Barton has some deficiencies feels harsh, but the Barton will give up goals. And I think, with that in mind, and like I said, we've seen it literally this year, the Barton have a game going 70-75% at the faceoff dot and still losing. I'm gonna give Summit this advantage because, like Nova said, this isn't a one-off. It's been years of, for whatever reason, not be able to crack a zone, let alone a zone that we think as highly of as Summit and this particular Summit team.
Also, a side note, shout
sorry.
out to Alex Schoen, who you just mentioned, for shouting us out in the Lehigh Lafayette game that he was announcing that also Glock was on. So thank you for the shout out.
Shout out to the shout out to the shout out.
Shout out. Exactly.
So Dub Barton's going to win by like 7 on Wednesday. We all
Alex Schoen, by the
we should
way,
not be surprised when that happens.
somebody I'm trying to get on an overtime episode, which shameless self-promotion here. If you didn't listen to our overtime episode from last week, the South Jersey Lacrosse Summit, I think it's some of our finest work this season in terms of overtime episodes. And I encourage you to check out that conversation that occurred with Shawnee's Don Green, Damon Legato of Haddonfield, and St. Aug's JC Valori. So get a deeper insight into lacrosse in South Jersey. Let's stick with some Wednesday action coming up. Don Bosco and Ridgewood Tharp, I alluded to it earlier. What are you watching for in that game?
Yeah, I mean, can Bosco stay hot? I mean, like it's a battle of like, can Ridgewood, like I said, won 8 in a row. This is going to be for the 1 seed in the Bergen County tournament. It's really, really key battle. I think that like I said, Bosco was in an absolute dogfight with Chatham. Had a really dominant win over an out-of-state opponent on Saturday. So they're clearly trending in the right direction. Whatever, like Nova alluded to, they slipped up against Northern Highlands, and it sucks that you have to lose to maybe be that wake-up call. But I think there's going to be an absolute war. One of the premier games of the week for sure.
There's a couple of Thursday games, which is a little bit of an anomaly compared to what we normally would get. And Shawnee Haddonfield, a big-time South Jersey matchup between two of those aforementioned coaches who appeared on our overtime episode last week. And also Thursday is Bergen Catholic against Notre Dame in a non-public matchup. And on Saturday, it's a who's who, it seems like, every weekend in the state of New Jersey this year of big-time matchups. Don Bosco and Mountain Lakes will play Saturday. St. Aug's and Gill St. Bernard's will play Saturday. Ocean City and Southern Regional will play on Saturday. And I have a first of 3 that I really want everybody to talk about from our Saturday matchups. And Gil, I'm going to kick it over to you as Glen Ridge and Bridgewater will face off.
Keith, there's so many Saturday games. It's as if there's not another day we could play these games.
I don't know what you're talking about, Gil. It's almost like the state of we're mandated to play on Saturdays. I mean, there's no, I can't fathom a reason why, with possibly a nice night on Friday at a school that has lights where the weather's nice, and teams that are like pretty good at playing lacrosse. We can't do that, okay? I need you to just get your head on straight and understand that Friday night lacrosse, the only thing that Friday night lacrosse would do would be freaking amazing, okay? Good God, all these Saturday games.
I'm not going to go on that tangent right now, but I think this is like a sneaky big game in the mix of this list here. I think the Scotch Plains Shawnee game maybe gets buried a little bit with some of these big rivalries earlier in the week, and even Saturday, which we'll touch on in a second, the Westfield Pingree. It's a Bristol Bowl, right, Tharp? The Scotch Plains Shawnee game, I think, might get buried a little bit, but it's one of the biggest games. I think, it's 2 top 10 teams.
I think you're supposed to be talking about Glen Ridge and Bridgewater.
What's that?
You're supposed to be talking about Glen Ridge and Bridgewater.
Oh, which one are we starting with?
I was trying to start with Glenridge and Bridgewater, but then you got me off on a little tangent on.
All right, well, I'm going off the list. I'm a visual learner. I'm going off the list. So
okay,
Glenridge
all right,
Bridgewater also is going to get buried a little bit, I think.
All right, well, hold on. Let me rethrow this to you, okay? So this way we could go in the order that I want to go. I'm the host of this show right now, okay, Gil?
All right, let it rip.
Doesn't matter that you own the whole damn company. We're doing what I want to do. Right.
Tell me where to go, and I'll go.
On Saturday, the first of three matchups that I want to talk about is Glenridge and Bridgewater.
Wait, can I also give a little thing? I think this
Jesus.
game's at Saturday night, too. I think this is a 6 p.m.er.
Whoa.
So we get Saturday night lacrosse.
Oh, this actually is Saturday night lacrosse.
I think this is Saturday night, yeah.
All right, beautiful. So maybe it won't get buried as much, but I think it's, I think Bridgewater, Bridgewater's been sitting close to the top 10 for weeks now. I think, they've earned it. They've been there. They've had some good games, but kind of just quietly there. I think partly because of all the mess behind them as well. Nobody's really knocked them off or, fought for a spot above them. But Glenridge is a battle. It's going to be a battle for them. I think, Glenridge, and, I don't want to spoil too much of our top 20, but they're kind of, falling out since, the beginning. We had them pretty high, but they just haven't really made any noise yet. Or I think the knock on them is they haven't had a big win. And this is one that is definitely winnable for them, especially in the spotlight of Saturday night. I think this is a relatively massive game for both teams, really. I think it can kind of solidify Bridgewater where they are, or can really skyrocket Glenridge for getting their first big win here.
I don't really know that this one may need too much introduction, except for me to say, Gil and Tharp, I need you to head-to-head here when I say that Westfield is looking to rebound off of I won't even call it a skid. It's not even fair by any stretch of the imagination to call what they're doing a skid, given the competition that they're playing. But Westfield and Pingree are going to face off on Saturday. So, Gil, take us through the beginning pieces of that, and then Tharp, you get to defend the Ping Show.
Oh, well, I'm not looking for any. I was looking more for a collaborative effort here with my boy Billy. But I know this game means a lot to him deep down, and it means a lot to me the closer I get with my boys in Westfield and Dubfield. And again, it goes back to Westfield's schedule right now. I mean, coming in with Rumson earlier in the week, off the stretch that they've had, there's just no easy breaks right here. But those are two winnable games for them, very winnable games for them that I think could be a big stepping stone for them. Pingree's, we've talked about their defense. We talked about Luke Burns before. This is a game that is going to be tough for Westfield to score goals and find the back of the net on paper. But it's definitely something where if they want to really kind of let loose and attack, I think they can. But it's going to be, I know this game means a lot, Tharp, to all these players and coaches and everybody involved in this game. And you can kind of touch on the meaning behind the Bristol Bowl a little bit, and as it pertains to this matchup this year.
Yeah, I mean, I know like it definitely doesn't get the same juice that Del Barton, Seton Hall, and some of those other games do. But being in the Pingree locker room, this game means a ton. Tony Bristol was a former coach at both Pingree and Westfield, and Westfield had been on something like a 13-year winning streak in the Bristol Bowl, and Pingree's won the last two. So, I think it's a game that's very similar to all these rivalry games we talk about. Like, you throw out the records, you throw out the everything. I mean, fortunately, the past 6 years or so, both teams have happened to be very, very strong. So every game's been super incredible and super competitive and all that stuff. But I think this is a game that it means a lot to Coach Webster. And, like you said, there's a literal trophy that's handed out. And, one of the assistant head of school at Pingree, his name's Miller Ballard. He's been there since the 50s. And, he gives a little speech at the end of the game, and he'll present the trophy to the captain. So it's something that, for Westfield, you grow up in town. It's something that every Westfield captain dreams of, being able to lift that Bristol Bowl. And for Pingree, it's become something that they wanted it back for many years, and they've had a little bit of success a couple years in a row. Coach Webster is obviously going to have those boys absolutely fired up. And like we said, Pingree's they're there, man. They're chipping away, and it's not the prettiest thing, and we can make all the comments we want, but they're 9-1, they're 10-1, so you expect that to be an absolute dogfight on Saturday. This is probably the latest the Bristol Bowl's been in quite some time. So.
And finally, Gil, the game that you really want to talk about, obviously, Scotch Plains and Shawnee on Saturday.
I think it's going to get buried a little bit, Keith.
By what? I don't understand.
No, I think it's a huge game, and I think it's it's two top 10 teams who aren't nearby. They're not a conference game by any means, but it's a great matchup we get to see out of conference here, North versus South. And again, I think it's a game that means a lot to both teams at this point in the season. I think Scotch Plains is riding high and really taking care of business every game, and we have them. I'm not going to spoil it, but they're up high in the top 10 that we've had for a couple of weeks now. Nothing's changed there with them. Shawnee is right there as well, but they're kind of looking for that big marquee win, which I think we all think they can definitely do. We have Scotch Plains ranked a little bit higher right now, but they've taken care of business to earn that. But this is a game I think Shawnee could really make some noise and knock them off and really shake up the top 10. I think we haven't seen a whole lot of shake up in the top 10 compared to the back half of the top 20. But this is one that could really throw things out of whack in there.
All right. Let's go over to, I want to do our top 20 before we do the pick 'em in the stall warning for this week, because I just feel like we got to move this up a little bit. Not a crazy debate in the top 20 this week. I will, as I usually do, I'll count you down from 20 to 10. We'll have a little discussion, and then I'll get you from 9 all the way down to 1. Coming in this week, Haddonfield at number 20, down 5 spots from number 15. Mountain Lakes comes back into the poll after being unranked last week at number 19. Number 18 is Notre Dame after being unranked. Number 17, I love our acronyms here. SJR, St. Joe's Regional. Am I correct in this, boys?
Yes, Keith.
Thank you very much. I already messed up one acronym today. I don't want to mess up another one. St. Joe's Regional in at number 17 after being out of the poll. CBA up 4 spots to number 16. Pingree down a spot, God forbid, Bill Tharp, from number 14 down to 15 here. Rumson drops 2 spots to number 14. Gil St. Bernard's at 13, right where they were last week. And a bunch of teams staying status quo from last week. West Morris stays at 12. Bridgewater stays at 11. Shawnee stays at number 10. So, guys, as I look at this, I see 3 teams returning to the poll after being unranked. And I know based on our group chat that, the 15 to 20 range is where the greatest piece of debate is for each of you almost every week. And I feel like, based on the conversation, it's because of the glut of teams that you all feel are like 15 to 26, 27 in there. Are we throwing darts at a list here? How are we doing this?
Yeah, I think the only thing that we agree on is that next year we're just going to do a top 15.
Not a bad idea.
I think it's like the problem becomes like, you don't want to just like copy lax numbers, right? Like that's no fun, right? That's just not fun. But it's like at some point, like all these teams, right? There's these triangles, right? It's like, Ramapo, Bergen, Lakes are in a triangle, right? So it's like Lakes beats Bergen, Bergen beats Ramapo, Ramapo beats Lakes, like, and this goes on and on and on, and it's like there's so many of these, like, and then it's like, well, can we rank Northern Highlands? It's like, well, Northern Highlands lost to so and so, and it's like, okay, well, what about like a Homedale? And it's like, well, Homedale beat CBA, but like on lax numbers, they're pretty low, and it's like, so I think for where I landed, for me, it's just like, okay, if I stack these teams up on the field. I didn't even have St. Joe's on my radar, and then Gil, you mentioned them. I was like, all right, I'll take a look closer, and it's like, yeah, St. Joe's doesn't have any like marquee wins, but it's like they don't have any like marquee losses either. Like they have a really competitive loss to St. Augustine, and they beat St. Joe's Montvale, or yeah, they beat St. Joe's Metuchen this weekend, like, pretty handedly, and they beat Northern Highlands. So it's like, man, like okay, like you have no massive warts, so that gets you ranked this week, and it's like, man, if I had to line up Notre Dame to play these list of teams, do I think Notre Dame could win the game? Well, right now, yeah, probably I would. So like, for me, that's how I ended up. So it's not as much throwing darts, Keith, as much as like finding that group of like five and then like piecemealing and like identifying the flaws with each specific team until you can like live with yourself. And I think like I think for all of us, like 17 through 20 was just like literally a disaster, and it's like who knows what it's going to be next week.
Look at you circling back and actually answering my question. That was like an expert TV personality response there, Tharp. As much as I loathe to compliment you, I mean, good God. At your mother's behest, by the way, lest I let all the burner accounts that come at me for not being nice enough to you all week, which that's also a thing, by the way, in case anybody didn't know. Bill Tharp has burners. Who even knew?
They're not burners, they're human beings.
They're all Bill Tharp.
They're all Bill Tharp.
I
Everyone.
They should change my name in the text message box.
It's got a lot of time on his hands, folks. All right, on to our top 10. We mentioned Shawnee at number 10. Westfield comes in at number 9. Chatham at number 8. Both those schools down 2 spots respectively. Don Bosco jumps up to number 7, and they were 9 last week. Ridgewood up to number 6 from number 8. Scotch Plains falls from 4 to 5. Seton Hall moves up 2 spots from 6 to 4, and the top 3 remain unchanged. Del Barton remains at number 3, St. Augustine at number 2, and Summit still at the top, apropos for the name, at the summit of the NJ Lacrosse Pod Top 20 for Week 10 of April. Boys, I think at the top things are a little bit status quo there. Anything that stands out to you and how you arranged the rest of the top 10?
Yeah, I finally did flip-flop St. Augustine and Summit for the first time all season, so I feel good about that. So
Don Bosco.
other than that, I think this was very, very simple for us. I think we were pretty much, other than maybe like one flip-flop here and there within like each one of our rankings by like one spot. The top 10 were, I think, incredibly easy to come up with. I don't think anyone's going to argue. Amongst the three of us, there's of course going to be people that argue this, but amongst the three of us, I think we were very in tune and with this final result.
What do you say to the people in our comments on tomorrow or Tuesday that are going to say, okay, you have Del Barton and Seton Hall right next to each other. Why doesn't Seton Hall jump Del Barton?
Because of how we do the standings. Based on, again, there's 3 different things that kind of go into it. We all have our own one, and then it's based on that ranking between. So none of our three had really, I think, Del Barton and Seton Hall side by side. And then in that case, it was our own. We flip-flopped them because I think it's just how the math worked. We don't ultimately.
I have to call you guys out on that for 1 second.
No, I definitely have.
You guys both have Seton Hall Prep 1 spot behind Del Barton.
Do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, Tony Flipper flipped again. He flipped Scotch Plains and Seton Hall.
Tony Flipper.
I did.
I don't have a problem with it, but I just know that's going to come up that's going to be in the conversation of
For the record, I kept the top 4 the same that I did the week before. I kept Scotch Plains at 4. Oh, yeah. I bumped Seton Hall Prep up to 5, I think, from
6, I think.
No, I had 5
7.
last week too. Never mind.
Well, I think for me it's just like, look at Seton Hall's wins now. They're not like, Scotch Plains is a lovely story, but like they don't have the wins that Seton Hall does. Like for me, that was like pretty easy to flip them. But I'm just saying, like as Gills sitting there on his phone, ready to respond to burners. Like we got to give him lines to feed these guys. So everyone's yelling at us.
No, yeah, that's a very good point.
I think the response is pretty simple. It's like at this point, it was multiple weeks ago. You know, at the time, Seton Hall was all the way back at 11, and you know that's a great win. But we're not going to just flip flop. There's too much data now to just flip flop based on one result. I think that would, you know, that's what I would say. And, you know, we respect we respect the win. There's a reason that there's a reason that Seton Hall's all the way back up to number 4. But at the end of the day, like there's too much data now to just be flip flopping results based on one win. That's what I would say. But Gil, you're ultimately the guy behind you get the final response to all these people.
But I let it be organic, authentic, real time, whatever mood I'm in.
I would like to say that I think the guy that signs my paychecks, Gil Swenson, that you're clearly the most well thought out and certainly the most handsome of everybody on this podcast. So
Thanks,
there
Keith.
you go. Hey, listen, you're very welcome. Just make sure the checks keep showing up on time. All right. Let's move on to our pick'em. Now, look, I'm going to give you 20 seconds, Tharp. 20 seconds, and then I'm going to mute you like Tony Reale, okay? You had a 5-0. You had a 5-0 week. 5-0 last week. Gil took one in the metaphorical pooper, 2-3. Now we are in a dead heat, 16-9 for both of you, heading into this week in the pick'em. Go ahead and gloat.
Listen, if I ran away with it this early, it just wouldn't be fun, Keith. We got to keep the viewers entertained.
Oh. Is that it? That actually was supposed to be a Tharp response. So, Bill, as somebody who just went 5-0, I'm going to apologize on behalf of my check signer, okay? He stole a little bit of your time, and I'm going to award it back to you like this is Congress.
I respect that, Keith. I think that you know, it's nice to try and give everyone some shine, but you know, when we got down to the nuts and bolts of it, and you know, it was time to you know, put my big boy pants on and you know, pick with my brain, got the job done. I will say, I believe last week there was a 5-0 graphic made. I think it was posted before like we even recorded the podcast. Pretty funny that the guy that runs the account posts his own awards. Just saying.
Learn how to run social media, Tharp.
You're
Give me the
happy.
login.
You brag about putting your big boy pants on. I'm just happy you put pants on at all. Let's get to our picks for the week. And because you had that 5-0 week now, heavy is the head that wears the crown, Tharp. You have to go and pick first 3 times this week. And we're going to start off with Pope John against Montclair. And you lead us off, Bill Tharp.
I'm gonna go Montclair. Shout out my boy Cooper O'Brien in net. It's been sitting on his head this year. Give me Montclair.
Gil?
Yeah, Montclair too.
All right. A South Jersey matchup of schools within the same district. Lenape against Seneca. Gil, you get to go first on this one.
I'm going to go Seneca.
Bill?
I'm taking the fight in Bill Sutphin's.
Okay, and so we have disagreement. On one. Let's head over to the eastern part of the state where Wall High School is going to take on Shore Regional.
Is it me?
It is you.
This one's tough. Give me Shore.
And Gil?
Yeah, I was going Shore too.
All right, agreement there. Our next one, Gil, you can take this one first. Columbia High School, and we're going to call this the Bob Curcio Keith Glock matchup of the week, where Columbia High School, where Coach Curcio, the famed former coach, athletic director, and official, called home for so many years, against one of the finest schools in all of the state of New Jersey, the St. Peter's Preparatory School of Jersey City, my alma mater. Gil, what say you?
You made it real easy for me, Keith. I'm going to go with Columbia, the Fighting Ryan Downies, and roll Columbia.
Bill?
Yep, I'm gonna go Columbia too. It's nothing against you. I've watched Columbia play. I've watched St. Peter's play. I think Columbia's got some nice pieces.
Nova, it might just be me and you picking the last game because I don't know that we're going to allow the rest of these guys to talk the entire rest of the time. Our fifth game of the week. Tharp, you can pick this one first. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, 1 mile from my home, will take on Bergen Catholic.
I'm gonna go Notre Dame.
Look at you. Look at you. Picking a team from a part of the state that so many people don't even think exists in Central Jersey. Gil, what do you think?
You gotta remember, that's my home. That's my home. That's where I'm from.
Our home. Our home, Bill.
No, but you're not. I was born and raised. I was born in Trenton.
I'm allowed to have multiple homes, Bill.
No, that's my roots.
Gil, what do you think?
Well, I got to keep things interesting. We can't just have one separate game or different game. And we had a little argument about our 17 to 20 spots, and I
said you better pick Bergen.
Huh?
You better pick Bergen. Then we'll be pulling up your text
Bergen,
messages.
Barb. All right, and you're gonna eat it at the end of the week. So, Bergen.
Disagreement on 2 games this week, and we'll see who maybe ekes out a small, ever so small lead here as we get into the second half of the season. All right, let's move on to our stall warning. So one of the dumbest things, and yet I am captivated by it as well. So I am not saying this as a holier than thou item. It's the last 2 minutes. We're going to keep it in. But something that most of us in the country, if you like athletics, was captivated by for at least a little while, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, was the NFL draft. Something that if you watch, you will say, Taylor Swift would probably be jealous about the crowd that gathers for a human to walk up to a podium and read a name off of a card, which on its face is completely stupid, but it's just how much the country is infatuated with football. And so, look, we all like to be right in terms of our predictions, right? Coming right off the pick'em. So what I'm asking of you guys is, for our stall warning question, I want somebody that 5 years from now we can pull back this clip of, and we're going to be able to say on April 26, 2026, so-and-so said this person is going to be an absolute stud, and like what a huge mistake it was for teams not to draft this guy in the first round. So I didn't want to have to say that it was like give you a restriction on it could only be 4th round or later or something like that. That feels insane. I want a non-first round draft pick in the NFL draft from this past week who you think is going to be an absolute stud in the NFL. And we're going to start with Gil Swenson.
I'm going to go with the rut. 7th round quarterback,
Oh,
Ethan Kaliakmanis. Shut up, Bill.
That's because you didn't watch a single second of the NFL draft. You have no other thoughts.
That's not true at all. I was watching 7th round on TV.
No, you weren't.
Locked in.
You're just that's look, I respect it, but a
You
huge
said Tom
homer.
Brady, 7th round quarterback. How much closer can we get here?
Okay,
Big
Ethan Kaliakmanis is going to be Tom Brady. You heard it from Gil Swenson right here. Oh boy, and Tharp, obviously, I feel like you're going to have like very strong opinions, so I'm going to save you for a second. So Nova, I want your pick here. Who a non-first round pick who's going to be a monster?
Well, I feel like part of me is to steal your Falcons thunder here a little bit and go with Avian Terrell, picked in the 2nd round, who gets to play alongside his brother, which is pretty crazy. Brothers playing corner in opposite positions. I think he's an incredible talent on both sides of the ball. But ultimately, I'm going to go with TJ Parker, defensive lineman from Clemson. Guys, sticking with my Clemson boys, going to the Bills in the 2nd round. I think he's just that interior force that absolutely they need. He's was double, tripled on pretty much almost every single play last year. And I think it's going to translate pretty well to the NFL.
Bill Tharp, what say you?
I'm going to stick with quarterback. I actually think Drew Aller's a pretty good quarterback. I think Penn State was an utter disaster. I think Pittsburgh is the most professional organization in the world, and it sounds like Aaron Rodgers is coming back. So it's not like Aller has to be the guy this year. He gets to learn. I think there's a shot Drew Aller's actually a pretty good NFL player. So that would be my pick. Although
Yeah,
I will say,
Tom Brady was just pretty good.
my favorite team, but is the one like no team makes my day happier or worse than Rutgers football. I wanted to shout out Ethan Kaliak Madness. Did you even go to a Rutgers game this year?
What's the
Did you
difference?
attend a Rutgers football game?
What's the difference?
So you didn't ever breathe the same air as Ethan. He was there. I was in the trenches with him. Wanted to shout him out. You stole that from me. I'm heartbroken. But
I was between
yeah,
him
I'm
or
gonna pick Drew Aller.
I was between him or Florida place kicker Trey Smack, 6th round, Green Bay Packers. Something about the name and the position as a former kicker, last name Smack, can't beat it.
You know that the reason why I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan is because I liked the Falcons kicker when I was like 8 years old, right? That's a legit so dumb but true story. Morton Anderson, baby, only the second kicker in the Hall of Fame. So I am going to go with a guy who went with the 11th pick in the second round, and his team is going to stink. So this is going to take a little while for this to come to fruition, but I think I'm going to be right about it. Linebacker from Texas Tech, Jacob Rodriguez. You watch Jacob Rodriguez play. He's going to be a guy.
Quarterback?
What's that?
No.
Was he the one that was the quarterback?
I actually don't know if he played
Wildcat.
quarterback, but it wouldn't surprise me because he did do a bunch of shotgun goal line stuff at quarterback for them and scored a bunch of rushing touchdowns. But that's not why I picked him. I picked him in this because I think you watch him play and there's just guys that you're like, man, that guy's not like the fastest guy and that guy is not the most ginormous guy on the field. Why the hell is he around the ball on every play? Like, he's just always there. He's either the first guy there making the tackle by himself or the second guy there finishing a guy off. And this is not 10 yards down the field either. He's meeting guys in the hole. He just seems to be one of those guys that can diagnose it like from the word go. And I think that as an off-ball linebacker, like, there's certain athletic freaks that can like be really good because they're athletic freaks. But if those guys can't diagnose it, like, there's only so much room that they could go. I feel like you could be like a pretty good athlete, not one of those freaks. But if you can diagnose it right from the word go, like, you have a future, right? Like, nobody would say Luke Kuechly was the most athletic, ridiculous guy, but he was probably the first or second best defender in the NFL for like 6 of his 8-9 years that he played. Like, guy was just everywhere. So yeah, I just compared this guy.
I did watch the draft, by the way, and if you watch the draft, you know that he was a quarterback.
He was
at Virginia, number 3 quarterback in the draft class behind Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy. Transferred to Texas Tech, walk-on linebacker. And if you watch the draft, you would know that.
His wife's a badass too. His wife's a Black Hawk pilot.
That's cool.
You're only making me like the guy more. I was actually just going off of having watched a couple of Texas Tech games, and I was like, "Who is this guy?"
You gotta watch the clip of him being drafted. It's awesome. The best. Actually, you know who I'm rooting for the most? The kid from Ohio State who got drafted by the Texans. The nose tackle. They had a video of his nephew recorded for him. And it was like, you got to look it up. I apologize. I'm not that he's ever going to see this. I forget his name. But his nephew recorded a video for him, and it's like the most like heart-wrenching thing ever. He's just like, I watched you grow up and now you made it. And then he's crying, and the football player's crying. It's electric. Speaking of Black Hawk pilots, I watched Top Gun Maverick today. Great movie.
Amazing movie.
Great movie.
Fantastic. Also, don't even get me started about the NFL. Like, they bring the guy home from wherever he's deployed and the family doesn't know that he's going to, oh boy. Like if you watch that stuff on YouTube, or I've been at like a couple of Falcons games because Fort Benning is right there in Georgia, like where this happens. If you don't cry watching those things, I cannot be friends with you. You don't have a soul.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Time out.
Don't even try to do this.
Box. Second stall warning is put on. A movie or something that makes you cry. Go. So this is the second stall warning. We called a timeout. We're trapped in the corner. We had to step out of the box. Now we touched it back in. Second stall warnings on. Something that makes you cry, like movie. For us, we have kids. We can't say like the day your kid was born. That's too corny. But like a movie or something like, or if like you witness one of those soldier coming home moments.
I got one.
All right,
because I've often said this about, and I'm going to tell the story to give you guys, the rest of you guys, a chance to think. That my job as a counselor and then my job as an official, part of the gig for both of those jobs is that I have to be like, you could tell me that you just murdered 7 people, and I have to act like it was exactly what I thought you were going to say, right? Like I don't really get to have some of those emotions. So like as I've gotten older in my life now and into my my mid 40s, and now like God forbid I'm about to be in my late 40s, that when I see things like movies or moments that make me feel stuff, like feelings are good. You know what I mean? Like in getting to feel those kind of things, I find myself seeking them out now. And one of the things that I think is such a great, and it's not a movie, but it was more like a short that was produced for ESPN, and it's called, to keep this with lacrosse too, The Man in the Red Bandana. And it's about Boston College lacrosse player who led people out of the Trade Center on 9/11. And and I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. If you watch that and you're not moved to tears, about, it's a combination of things that why we love lacrosse players and what makes them great people, and obviously such an emotional situation of 9/11 and everything like that. Like last year I watched it on purpose, like on the YouTube app on my television, because I was like, I got to have some emotion in my life right now today. So that's it for me.
Fact.
That's deep.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything. I mean, there's definitely some movies that definitely have
No
have
emotions.
got me for sure.
No
from
emotions at all for Tone.
Yeah, straight all the time. Have you ever seen like John Q or 7 Pounds? Kind of movies like that definitely will get the emotions going for sure. Again, other
Tony
than like,
sees a good zone breaker. Ugh.
yeah, music to my ears, baby. I'll cry there. Someone scores 10 goals on Summit, yeah, for sure.
Oh boy, talk about running the gamut from my answer to Nova's right there. Gil, what about you?
For me, I mean, I feel like any movie or like video clip, like you're talking about, Keith, like where a strong central male character gets emotional. No, like, Titanic, all that kind of shit. Like, nothing. Like, no emotions right there, but like, a central male figure gets emotional out of nowhere. Hits me every time.
Do you have something specific that you're thinking about?
I got a few that I'm trying to figure out the scenes. I've seen a couple recently, so they're not like movies you see every day. I'm trying to think. I mean, like a Marley and Me, obviously that hits everybody. Like Owen Wilson, favorite actor, one of my favorite actors. What's his name? Kurt Russell in Miracle. They win. He gets a little emotional on his own. No emotions all movie. Hits him a little bit at the end. Every coach can get that. Has to go off on his own a little bit. Hits me every time. So
sure.
Darts is easy. Darts is easy.
What do you what do you think it is?
All you have to say is non-public beat, and
Sorry, we just
the death
explicit for this episode.
The death
Told
of
you,
non-public
emotion,
B.
emotion, raw emotion right there, everybody.
Well, what made me think of is spoiler alert today. And I teared up when Rooster, who was Goose's son from the first movie, comes back to save Maverick. Made me tear up. But the one that I think of, which is I'm glad I didn't get to go after Keith because this is so stupid. I literally took off work in 2019 to go see Avengers Endgame with my lovely wife. We went to see the movie. She couldn't care less. She came with me, took off work, and when Tony Stark snaps his fingers and dies, I just start sobbing. So I was sobbing watching, and then they have his funeral, and it's like everything. I was sobbing in the movie theaters watching Avengers Endgame. So I'm so glad that I didn't have to go after Glock and
Yeah, my
somewhere.
wife's a huge Groot fan, so she was right there with you
Yeah.
in the first movie.
The death of Iron Man. It's enough to make anybody cry. And I'll give you one more, Bill, just to lighten things up after my not stupid but emotional answer. And this will tie it right back into our original store warning question. The movie Draft Day. If you haven't seen Draft Day, it is phenomenal. And
I think it's a great movie.
like with the first pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select, dramatic pause, to show three players on the screen. Vontae Mack, linebacker, Ohio State. And rest in peace in real life, right? But, just, man, if you can't get behind Vontae Mack.
That's Chadwick Boseman.
Right. If you can't get behind Vontae Mack, I can't help you. Sorry.
We got to shout out the memes this week of Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel, by the way.
Wait, what
Mike Vrabel having the paper that says Diana Rossini. What is the line, Glock, from the movie? What is the
Vontae Mack no matter what. Okay, but we're not
Diana
really allowed
Rossini,
to
no
go.
What. That's the.
This is where you went for this. Okay, I might have to cut this segment out now. Okay,
we just
might have to work now.
All right, Gil, we're gonna have to click the explicit button at this point. I think I don't really know.
I already said the F word.
This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a picture, one of the pictures of them. I'm gonna put Thorpe on one, Colleen on the other.
Now
That's gonna be the secret.
Now we
romance
gotta
that nobody knows is happening.
Now we gotta edit this.
All right,
deep work.
It is officially time to put an end to this episode of the podcast after 1 hour and 32 minutes. Oh boy!
We need to have a subscriber where they can pay to hear that 70-second clip or whatever that ended up being.
Only pod content.
My goodness, that'll do it for another episode, another joyous, emotional episode of the New Jersey Lacrosse Podcast. Listen, Alex Schoen, if you're still listening to this, still needed an overtime episode. I'm still in search of something for the end of this week to drop. But we wish everyone a very happy and a very healthy week ahead in the state of New Jersey for boys lacrosse. And we will be back 1 week from today in your podcast feeds, on your YouTube subscription feed, and can't wait to do it again with you boys. Hopefully maybe for not an hour and 32 minutes. For Anthony Terranova, Bill Tharp, and Gil Swenson, I'm Keith Glock. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.